Stop criticizing what we're saying and understand that we reach out to you because you have the privilege that we don't, and we need you to help advocate for us when there's something that we need. Hello all, welcome to Dwhell On It, a series where I, Taylor, answer your questions about my lived experience as a trans woman. I hope you get comfortable. Please subscribe so that you can stay up to speed with new content. Everybody watching right now, make sure to hit like if you're enjoying this content, and everyone else too, please share, because my message can only reach as far as it can reach, so I need you to help broaden that news and that noise. Dwhell On It, like I mentioned, is a series where I'm answering your questions and they're drawn out of a grab bag, so if you would like to add your questions to a future episode, please add them by comments or by DM, or if you happen to know me obviously personally, we can add that to the mix as well too. This is just going to be an open personal challenge. I have been called out by a friend of mine about how frequently I play with my hair, and that is a habit that I both enjoy and likely will not stop, so let's have an over-under for this episode. Is my hair playing going to go over 50 or under 50? There are 0 rewards. It's going to be something that'll be fun to check out while I'm editing. Speaking of hair, let's get into a visual description to start things off really quick. I am, as always at this point, I'm still in my living room and gym, depending on the time of day or perspective we'd like to look at it. Beige walls. Behind me I've got 3 pieces of cardio equipment, which is my treadmill, my elliptical, and my recumbent bike. I'm wearing a purple and black dressier style top. I've got my blonde hair straightened, which is going, a couple inches below my shoulders. Got a color palette that's based on purple. My nails are, they're still the turquoise, black, and silver ones. I've got my 3 piercings underneath my right eye, going in a small, medium, large fashion, going outwards towards a cluster earring on the top of my right ear, with my 2 stud piercings and a nose piercing. I'm white. I'm 6'1". That's kind of the long and short for a visual description for anyone who's currently listening to this right now, or who has a visual impairment, which helps them experience the episode with a little better ease. As I mentioned earlier, my name is Taylor. I live in Winnipeg, Manitoba, which is Treaty 1 territory. I've got 2 fundraisers that are in the description as well, so please make sure to take a moment and jump on those if you have not yet. Trying to reach $1,411 for each fundraiser. One is for Run for Women, one is for Walk for Muscular Dystrophy. The Run for Women is on June 5th. The Walk for Muscular Dystrophy is on June 11th. There's about 2 weeks left. Trying to reach $1,411 for each one. Online donations get a tax receipt as well, so please jump in the description, see the link, and add what you can as you can, and make sure to share that too. In the description as well is a reference to a video that I uploaded, which I'm going to put right here, which is Letters for Trans Kids. It's a message to trans youth who are under siege by anti-trans legislation. This is focused particularly in the US, but there's no question that the ramifications from these bills and this attitude does affect the Western world. So if you haven't seen that video yet, please check it out. If you have not shared a message yet to show support and show encouragement to trans youth who truly desperately need to hear your support, please take a moment to do it. Hop on whatever social media platform serves you best. Hashtag letters, the number 4, trans kids. Send a letter of encouragement. And coming from someone who's known my identity since my earliest memories, I wish that I could have had that random support from people who have no idea who I am, but know that I have a right to be who I am. So please make sure to take a moment and help contribute accordingly with that. So I stopped recording, and this cut is coming into the beginning right now, so this doesn't count as a playing with hair, just for the record, because the video is done. So nonetheless, that I wanted to introduce this episode by saying that I didn't know if I wanted to get back into the grab bag again right away because of last week's episode. As an individual who's very passionate about sports, who's very passionate about trans inclusion in sports, and who also is very passionate about seeing past the silly bureaucracy with organizations, I am still fuming because of Sport Manitoba's pathway to whatever the hell they call it. I'm going to put a link to that video right here. It is a very frustrating experience to go through right now. It is something that I'm not taking lightly, and it's something that I'm not letting go of. If you have not seen that video yet, please create the time to watch it and understand the harm that is getting caused by Sport Manitoba and in organizations as a whole, thinking that just saying the nice things is enough without actually doing the right things. Please create time to watch that video. It is very important, and I really need your help, your support, and please share that video. It is very important that as many people as possible see it in full and see what's happening in full. What is the most difficult part of transitioning? Interesting. I'm going to blend this question, as a matter of fact, with something that was asked to me by someone who's a former coworker of mine just a few days ago, as a matter of fact, when we were just talking about my transition. And her question was, has life gotten more difficult since I transitioned? My answer to that kind of answers this question too. Difficulty can be considered to be an objective value. There's no question about that, but then it's also how you interpret or cope with what is challenging and decide if it's difficult or not. I don't know if I'm making sense, but I hope it kind of comes together in that sort of way. I kind of look at it in the same sort of nature as pain. The vast majority of us have, pain receptors all over our bodies, and depending on what is currently happening, how our bodies are physiologically, where we are in our stages of life, what our past experiences are, and so on and so on and so on, it's the tolerance of it which adds to what I would interpret as pain. That turned into a ramble, but what I'm trying to say is, when it comes to what is the most difficult part of transitioning, that's kind of a blanket thing to say. Look what's happening. I'm going to point directly at the US, considering the vast majority of people who watch or listen to this are from, the Western world. What is happening in the US? The concept of even coming out where what you recognize as your world, your home, is trying to eliminate you. That's difficult, for sure. You might live in a place that actually is rather accepting overall, and what is currently happening with the political nightmares might not be affecting you as blatantly, but you're broke because of that, because you can't afford the health care that is necessary to have a medical transition if that is important to you. Your sense of self is getting destroyed because you can't afford to reach your authenticity. That's difficult. Some people are incredibly social animals, and when they transition, everyone disappears, and what they knew as community is now gone. I've spoken about community and such in previous episodes. I'm going to link one right there, just for an example about how mine was. Depending on who you are and the reaction of other people, that might affect how you carry yourself. That's difficult. There's a lot of things that are difficult in principle. It's not exclusive to one or the other. I will say confidently that we are not, as a society, doing as good of a job as we have a responsibility to assure that trans individuals can feel safe and confident no matter where they are. Any trans individual, I'm sure, can likely agree with me that living is difficult. When it comes to the day-to-days, I acknowledge the world around me. So it's not necessarily about being difficult. It's frustrating, I'm not gonna lie. In a past life, I lived a very cishet presenting white Canadian athletic male, right? I was top of the food chain. I could do whatever I want at any time without question, and that's gone. When it comes to the difficulties, like I said, I acknowledge that those privileges left as soon as I came out. That made my life more difficult, but I don't carry it as a difficulty. When it comes to how life was in the past, I was top of the food chain, but I lived a life that felt so meaningless, so empty, so nothing. I hated waking up. I hated living my life. I hated living. I didn't have enough courage to do anything about hating living, but I hated living because I didn't have a life. And nowadays, I'm authentic, I'm happy, and as much as people choose to hate me or leave me or abandon me, some people would be more than happy to see me never wake up again. Some people actually advocate for that. Some people try to ruin my life regularly. Some people feel that they are bigger than me. Some people want to put me under their boot. Some people want me to have zero success. Some people want me to have zero heartbeats. But I am living my best life every single day. So for me, the most difficult part about transitioning, with no question, is acknowledging and understanding and embracing the world around you, because it is scary. There's no question about that. But in terms of what are the individual parts of transitioning, I can't answer that because, as I mentioned, that is unique to the individual or the situation. And to answer the other question about, is life more difficult now? I don't measure life in difficulty. I know what I need to do. Every day I wake up, I know what my to-do list is. There are things that I wish I could accomplish, for sure. There are things I wish I could achieve. There's things I wish I could have. And there's lots of things that I feel that are going to be taken away from me forever because of who I am. but I would never look at what's going on in my life and any difficulties in it as being related to my transition. Because transitioning was the best thing that I've done for myself. And anything that comes along with it isn't about me and me being authentic. It's about the world around me not loving me for the person who I am. They're the ones who are having difficulties about me transitioning, not me. What is your most favorite day of the year? Oh, this is where I get to show how fun at parties I am. I don't have favorite days of the year. They're just days to me. If it amounts to anything, that there's more days that I'm aware of in the year, especially after coming out, because I do try to be more conscious of awareness dates, for example, especially when it comes to any sort of 2S LGBTQIA plus awareness and such. Even though that they've existed, long before I came out, I never allowed them to kind of like marinate in my life at all. And I was just, living a really cis-het, top of the food chain life that these awareness dates aren't going to affect my life. So, and that's how I felt. My birthday is my birthday, right? June 7th, by the way, it's coming up really soon. I try to be mindful of birthdays of friends and, other important dates. I don't know, right? Everything's just a day to me. Sorry. And even if I said something like February 1st, I started HRT February 1st, 2020. I wouldn't even consider it a favorite date because it's a date. I ended up getting my prescription a few days before that, and I just had it sitting on my shelf. Like I said, I'm really fun at parties. If there's one date that's just always been kind of unique to me, it'd be February 29th. But, again, I'm sure a lot of people like February 29th for its uniqueness. Anyway, I learned about a tradition on February 29th, and it's involving a dozen pairs of gloves, if I remember correctly. But between learning about that, and I was also in a beach volleyball tournament that day that was so upside down. Without getting into too many details about it, my team was the only team that went undefeated, and for some reason, we still didn't have enough points to make it into the round robin playoffs. Sure, whatever. Right, only team that went undefeated. Apparently, it was a points-based system, and like even my own team, right? We were saying, it was like, well, if we knew that it was points-based, because it was kind of, it felt like it was pretty ragtag put together. So it's aside from the point, but we're like, we laid off, right? Because we didn't. We laid off because that's sportsmanship, right? So yeah. So it's still, I wouldn't even know if that's my favorite day of the year. It's just unique memories to that date as it happened, but that date could be any other day and the memory would go along with it, if that kind of makes sense. I'm sorry for not being able to answer that question specifically. What I do like with days is being able to just have memories about what happened on those days or why they're relevant, but favorite's kind of a relative word because what makes something a favorite, right? What was your most favorite adventure? Speaking of the word favorite, when I think of adventures, I can think of a period of time in my life around 2016, 2017, when I'd be spending more time with someone who used to be a friend of mine at the time. When we'd go on excursions, we would call them adventures. Never often have I called something adventures. They're just, again, remember that part where I said I'm really fun at parties? When I do things, they're the things, right? Like I've never really billed or booked them as adventures. They're just things to do. When I hear adventure, that this actually kind of like zeroes in on that period of time because we specifically called things that we did as adventures. We ended up driving to a cemetery outside of town that's like rumored to be haunted or whatever, and everything was just good, like for the night, right? There was just the partially cloudy sky with the full moon and da-da-da. It was just kind of weird how it all played out there. And as I mentioned, I'm really fun at parties, and so I was walking around in the grass in the cemetery for a small period of time being like, no, not haunted. However, in that cemetery is a building for building reasons. I don't know enough about cemeteries to know why there's a building in the middle of the site, but nonetheless, that I'm told, I was like, hey, go look in there, right? Like, cause it's all dark. It was like 11:30 at night or whatever it would be. It's like, hey, go look in there. I'm like, no, I'm not looking in there. I don't really want to look in there. And so it's like the only part of there I was like, yeah, I just don't want to push my luck. Right? I'm standing on grass right now. Nothing's getting hurt. So I just don't really feel like looking in, so, and it's probably like a tool shed for all I know, but I'm like, yeah, I don't want to do these things, because I know if I worked there and I knew that the place had a reputation for being haunted, you'd be darn sure that I'd make sure to put something really creepy in the window so that if people were looking in the window that they'd get absolutely spooked. So if I think that doesn't mean that someone else wouldn't. So I really didn't feel like pushing my luck with that one. So yeah, that like I said, would be up there for things that would be adventures, and that's literally by name. I've done things and have gone places, but they've always just been like with purpose, right? Like if I'm going to go somewhere, there's a reason for that, and it's not so much an adventure anymore. It's like it's a task or an event or an errand or whatever it may be. Attaching the word adventure to like a spontaneous, okay, let's go do this thing, kind of adds to that, like the word adventure of like that kind of like that discovery sort of thing. So that's what stands out the most. Has transitioning taught you any lessons that you wish cis people would learn? Oh boy, I'm going to link to a question from one of my most favorite episodes that I've done, and I'm going to link to the chapter right here. It's not directly answering the question about lessons that I wish cis people would learn. It does touch on things that it would be better for more cis people to realize. So please check that episode out. I know it's going right through the chapter, but if you haven't seen it yet, please watch it from the beginning. It literally is one of my favorite episodes. Has transitioning taught me any lessons that I wish cis people would learn? I don't know how to sum this up in a short answer, and to be fair, I could talk about all of the politics. I wish I could keep it concise about all of the things that cis people would learn if they kind of just sat in this chair for a day and had all of the same challenges, difficulties that get put on myself and get put on other trans individuals. I wish that I could, in such a small period of time, explain all of the things that cis people do not and will not grasp without sitting exactly in this chair behind these eyes. There's no amount of conversation or advocacy or so on that trans individuals share to cis people that cis people will get. The emotional resonance of the importance of a value is just not getting clicked with. You can have a lot of empathetic cis individuals, and you can have a lot of cis individuals that are simply just like, yeah, this makes sense, like literally logically understanding the values, but for them to have the passion to understand is just something that they will never experience, because as a cis individual, the persecution that trans individuals experience, largely because of cis individuals, and not necessarily even by the violent cis individuals who are actually trying to cause erasure, but the cis individuals who allow it to happen. There are so many lessons that I truly wish I can sum it up in a nutshell, but it's so difficult. Learning your own integrity, learning your self-worth, learning how easy a cis individual will turn their backs on you, even though that 2 weeks prior they were more than happy to invite you over. It is nuts. I wish I can sum it up. I truly do. I'm gonna bank this question. I'd like to turn something like this into a project and hopefully provide it as a resource for cis individuals to better understand. Now, I do have a lot of other things on the go already right now, so I don't have a timeline for something like this, but I'm going to table this question. All I can say for cis individuals right now who are feeling a little distressed by me saying was like, you don't understand, then please just do one thing. Stop criticizing what we're saying and understand that we reach out to you because you have the privilege that we don't, and we need you to help advocate for us when there's something that we need. Whether it's all the anti-trans legislation that's happening in the States, whether it's a bunch of BS sports policies that are happening anywhere that sports policies don't have to be BS'd at, so on and the other thing. Cis individuals who are decision makers who actively disregard the values of trans individuals, even though they understand the needs that trans individuals have, are the ones who are responsible to be more aware and conscious and compassionate and understanding and active. This can literally turn into like a 5-hour talk, so I'm going to stop at that. This was a fantastic question. I believe this is going to be the first question that I've actually said, let me get back to it. I am going to try to create something out of it. I have zero timeline for it. I want to make sure that's clear, but I think this is an incredibly valuable question. The awareness states are fine, right? The visibility is fine. The action's fine, but the why is something that cis people don't get. If there's one thing that I learned after transitioning about cis people, is cis people as a whole, as a society, continue to be more than happy to exclude people who are not like them. And the cis people who care for you and about you will pronounce themselves. The cis people who truly care about you will make it known they care about you. But as a society and as a whole, cis people are more than happy to not. I love that question. I'm sorry for not being able to answer it as fully as I would like. And just stay tuned for a follow-up one day someday about that, because that's actually a really powerful thing for me, because there's a lot that I wish cis people would learn. I'm going to link a video right here where I spoke about how trans erasure is happening right in front of us. That's something that I wish cis people would learn. Erasure is happening right in front of us. It's because of cis people causing the erasure, and it's going to happen because of cis people if they do not act against it. Please check that out. I'm going to point out, by the way, that I have not touched my hair, and I'm going to get through the outro with that too. So the answer to the question earlier is under. Please subscribe if you have not yet. Make sure to stay tuned for the follow-up answer whenever that gets done. I upload Dwell On It once a week, and of course any other similar content as well, so please make sure to stay up to speed with that as well. And of course make sure to hit share on all of these things as well. Hitting share helps get this message out to other people. I can only reach as far as I can reach, so wherever I post or whoever I send this to, that is the extent of my reach, and so I need you, the listener, the viewer, to take that a bit further. That is so important. And then if you've enjoyed the content, please hit like. Liking ends up giving a bit of a nudge to the algorithm so that anyone who's got similar interests in similar topics would have a chance to see a video like this show up in their feed or on their homepage or their interests or whatnot as well too. There are 2 fundraisers in the description. I'm trying to reach $1,411 for each one. There's a Run for Women and Walk for Muscular Dystrophy. Both of those are in about 2 weeks, so it's really important to get those donations in right now. If you haven't done that yet, please do so. Online donations get a tax receipt as well. Click the link, throw whatever dollar amount that you can afford down, hit share for that too, obviously, please and thank you. Finally, in the description, there's also a campaign hosted by New Mode, which is a call to action for the elected officials in your area to incentivize businesses, organizations, and companies to improve and optimize their corporate social responsibilities so that it ensures that there are better, safer, healthier neighborhoods for the 2S LGBTQIA+ community, and of course all other vulnerable communities that those organizations exist therein. Improving the CSR, of course, makes sure that the social and ethical values are met and upheld, which of course then helps support those communities, as I mentioned earlier too. I hope everyone's enjoyed this episode. Otherwise, let's wrap this one up here. Have a great rest of your night. Have a great rest of your week, as I very clearly love to say, and I'll talk to you later.